Good afternoon. I'm very glad to be back here. I was part of this conference last year, being as a past assistant director of planning and design at Kuwait University's project, Sabah Salim campus. I was able to share my journey throughout the years of managing that project, and I'm very glad that the previous presentation has referenced our project and our implementation of BIM in the campus. So my talk today is the nature is quite different in terms of being from an academic background. So it's a research-based effort that hopefully will result in a policy document that guides the BIM implementation here in Kuwait. And this is what was, as mentioned in the previous presentation, what is lacking here at Kuwait is a policy or guidelines that unifies all the individual efforts that we see all around the industry. So basically, where we started is we started to serve through the past research that tackled the subject of BIM. And we went as back as 2011, where the Building Smart survey have cited a low competency level through the Middle East. That study included Kuwait, and they found out that the utilization ratio overall in the Middle East is around 25 ratio, with a finding that the awareness level of the benefits of BIM, as you see, is quite high. Yet at that time, they found out that maturity level of BIM, according to the model that they have used, is sort of an integration of 2D and 3D applications, is not a mature level of application. So from that time, we have started to survey the published research of BIM in Kuwait, and you see quite of publications from 2016 to a recent publication that as well tackles the implementation of BIM at the Ministry of Public Works. So we started to survey all of this research and started a journey with our colleagues here. Some of the researchers are part of organizing committee of this conference. We have looked at the implementation of BIM from both a contractor's perspective and a subcontractor's perspective, and then that was sort of a wide assessment of the implementation of BIM, including Kuwait at the MENA region, while then we were able to sustain a fund from KFAS, and in that fund we have narrowed our focus to Kuwait, and we started to gauge the maturity level of BIM in Kuwait. So we have started to assess the enabling environments and the infrastructure, and then we have assessed the maturity level at the AEC industry here in Kuwait. So we found out through our research work that there are so many of delays in projects, cost overruns, and so many inefficiencies in the handing over. And this is the value of digitization, where you sustain the handover documents throughout the design and construction, and even the operation processes. BIM is globally recognized as one of solution, yet the full potential in Kuwait remains largely untapped. So the problem that we've cited is this lag in BIM adaptation compared to the global market, and we have adopted an existing methodology of very active BIM researchers. Dr. Bilal Sukkar is an active researcher in the field of building information modeling and still is part of a global research that gauge the maturity level. And myself and our colleagues here are part of this global also assessment project. So in that specific funded project, we have focused to, as I've stated, to gauge the maturity level of BIM implementation according to the model that Dr. Sukkar has defined. We have conducted a couple of studies. One is a pure quantitative study, surveying the market and getting feedback from the market. And the second study was sort of a mixed study between a systematic review, records, surveying the past research in the field, and conducting as well 10 interviews with experts in the field of building information modeling. So we have cited some obstacles that we wanted to verify through our research. So there was sort of an absence of the mandate of BIM here in Kuwait. Standardized protocols was mentioned in the previous presentation. Insufficient governmental incentives, fragmenting training opportunities. So basically our goal targeted the establishment of an empirical foundation. We wanted to base our recommendation in research information and guide the recommendation of a policy document that can unify the implementation of building information modeling here in Kuwait. So the expected impact of that document will be enhancing the efficiency of the industry overall, supporting the digitization vision of Kuwait, and improves the life cycle of management, and for sure fostering this collaborative environment of the academia and professions. So we are looking at what to improve at both sides, from an academic perspective and from the professional perspective as well. So the specific objective of our project were to assess the current maturity level of BIM implementation, identify the critical drivers and barriers, and finally to develop a roadmap, a unified roadmap that can be utilized by the AEC sector. So as I've mentioned before, we've conducted 2 studies. One is a quantitative assessment of BIM, running an online survey, and the second is mixed methods policy assessment through literature review, a systematic literature review, and through qualitative interviews that validated the findings out of the systematic literature review, and as well contextualize the qualitative findings out of the first study. Basically, we have tested a hypothesis that the strong BIM enabling environments such as technology and publications will strongly influence the infrastructure, the governance, the standards, the champions that will in turn guide the maturity level of implementation. So testing those hypotheses ended up with so many conclusions that the institutional infrastructure is a very strong driver of BIM maturity. External support, such as guidelines, training, technology, is very essential in building the internal organizational capacity of consultancy firm and contracting firms. External support also must be translated into the structure of those firms in terms to be effective, and the leadership is very essential. Governance and standards are critical drivers to achieve a good level of maturity. Basically, this is the second or the first part of the second study, which confirmed that the government support is needed, national BIM policy should be established, and the enhancement of work education is as well a necessity, while the cited primary obstacles were categorized to technological, organizational, and financial challenges. So basically, we went on in order to verify all of this literature review by conducting both quantitative and qualitative study, and throughout the interviews, we were able to theme the major domains of outcomes into what is the critical role of the government in terms of mandating and encouraging the incentives throughout the practice, and what are the challenges out of implementing BIM, and the value of BIM as a main driver in this journey of digital transformation. So the key combined findings from all study led to show us that there is a growing awarenesses of BIM implementation here in Kuwait, yet the industry and the implementation is hindered by some specific obstacles that we will go through in a few slides. And the industry overall was, out of the outcome that we got, was categorized at this level, the second level of maturity, according to the feedback and the results that we retrieved out of our study. What this means that we are right at the beginning of this stage where the BIM vision is sort of communicated, but the process of implementation is managed, and adoption, the roles and responsibilities are sort of clearly distributed, and in terms of technology, the BIM is treated as a process rather than just an upgrade. And in order to sustain this level of maturity and hopefully move forward to progress to another tier of maturity, we are recommended that both a policy push from the upper side, from the government, is very critical, as well the role of firms is also very important. So we by establishing a clear national mandate, clear unified standards, providing maybe financial incentives, and from bottom up, we also need more of leadership engagement from that company, for these companies, in order to develop formal BIM policy and continuously upscale their workforce. If we are able to do this, we will sort of accelerate our maturity journey, and then in turn enhance the performance of the sector overall to help achieving our national digitization goals according to the 3035 vision of Kuwait. So basically, the research have resulted in a practical document, and this is just the first draft of recommendation that we are working on in order to finalize, hopefully in the near future. So the purpose of this document to translate our empirical findings of our research into a practical plan, addressing the gaps identified in both the enabling environments and the infrastructure, outlining this in sort of 4 domains, criteria, as you see, what ought to be done at the governance level, at the financial level, educational level, and technological level, and for sure the goal to guide policymakers and stakeholders to sustain and elevate our maturity level moving forward in implementing BIM here in Kuwait. So basically, I will take you very quickly through those 4 domains and what exactly our recommendations in order to come up with a unified recommendation of policy documents. So here we have cited a lack of unified standards and weak enforcement. So we are recommending an establishment of a clear governance by several recommendations. One is a recommendation to establish a national BIM task force, and this task force might be composed of representatives from all public and private entities in order to address the need of centralized leadership. Another recommendation in the same domain of governance is developing and mandating BIM standards, and this was also referenced in the previous presentation, and this was also repeated concern out of the interviews that we've conducted. Third recommendation here to introduce sort of a phased mandatory BIM adaptation that might start from large-scale projects, public projects, then smaller scales, then we encourage also the private clients in order to implement BIM in their projects. The second domain was the financial domain, where we cited the high cost of BIM implementation, especially for small to medium scale firms. Our recommendation here to launch a government-backed BIM support fund for those types of firms to address the high costs as a barrier, which was also repeated in our literature review and also a constant feedback out of our expert interviewees. The second recommendation here is to introduce a direct financial incentive as well, offer sort of co-founding grants, rebates for AE companies, or implement a reduced fees for permitting or for tendering fees, and this might be also helpful in encouraging those small firms in order to be engaged in BIM adaptation. Third recommendation is to introduce preferential procurement incentives, where you, through the tendering process, you sort of reward the companies that comply and they have BIM as part of their practice by giving them advantage in those tenders. Last recommendation is to access a low-interest loans, and this has to be also supported and backed by the government as well. The third domain is the educational domain, and here where we cited a severe shortage of skilled BIM workforce, and our recommendation here to, for sure, integrate BIM into the academic curricula, and being part of an academic institution, we have to enforce BIM into being a core competency in the curriculum. Unfortunately, currently at the Department of Architecture at Kuwait University, we still offer building information modeling as elective classes. So we have to sort of take this and transform it to be a core competency into our programs. Recommendation 2 is to establish a national BIM training and certification program, and this can be delivered by a PPP partnership to address the need to upskill the workforce. And finally, the technological domain, where we have cited the interoperability and access to standardized tools. So here we are recommending to develop a national BIM library, open BIM library, tailored to the practice of Kuwait, and as well to promote sharing of data, open BIM, to prevent or to mitigate the interoperability challenges that we face through the transfer of information. Lastly is to continue government-led pilot project. This is, I think, is very crucial. We have experienced this at Kuwait University while I was part of the project. We have experimented with a smaller project design, and we've moved later at the project that we just seen, اللي هو the medical campus, where we were able to implement BIM to a full-fledged. So basically, this transitional implementation sometimes help you to gradually learn from your mistakes and then move forward in order to implement BIM at a full-fledged. So basically, those are the potential beneficiaries that we are targeting. Public sector entities, Ministry of Public Works, Public Authority of Housing Welfare, CABT, municipality, and for sure, consultancy offices, contracting companies, and the overall citizens and the state of Kuwait. In specific, the benefits, the potential benefits will be both related to public sector clients, reducing delays, higher quality, sharing of data, streamlining digital permits, and this is very critical. We have to think about aligning the permitting system while we are promoting the use of BIM, more transparent and objective tender evaluations, and from the private sector side, enhanced quality of design, significant reduction of rework, greater predictability of timelines, and increased local and international competitiveness. So we have started from diagnosing the problem to collecting evidences by our research to recommending a roadmap, and hopefully this roadmap will show its impact once it's, as I stated, adopted and enforced by a top-down and a bottom-up level. So we have now a clear and evidence-based diagnosis of where we are, what maturity level that we represent here in Kuwait, a comprehensive action roadmap built in global best practices and based in empirical research, a vision for the future to enhance the efficiency of practice and also elevate the competency of the AEC sector. So the time for incremental change, I think, is over, and we are at the stage where we want to endorse and implement this draft of the roadmap. So we just concluded our research a couple of months ago, and we are at the stage where we are communicating the results and drafting this policy document, and hopefully we'll share it with the entities and policymakers in order to get feedback and finalize the final draft of the document. This is the recommended title of the document that we are seeking, National BIM Policy Roadmap for the State of Kuwait. As I stated, it should synthesize all our findings from the research and provide sort of a phased, multi-dimensional recommendation across the four domains that we have went through for sure to guide our national BIM implementation and elevate the efficiency of BIM implementation in Kuwait. So basically, this was our research journey. The presentation was a little bit quite different in nature, but hopefully the outcome, the final outcome, the policy, the unified guidelines will serve the overall industry and will help in solving so many, I should say, individualized efforts. We are very keen to implement BIM here in Kuwait, but unfortunately what I see is we do have individual efforts in the Ministry of Public Works, in the Authority of Housing, in Kuwait University, but it's quite a time to all get together to collect our efforts and work under one umbrella. And in order to do so, we have to come up with a shared guidelines, a shared policy in order to help us moving in that direction. Thank you very much.
you, Dr. Mohammed. Very much focused on the subject of this first session. We have time, I think, for one question. Has anybody got any questions for Dr. Mohammed? If there's no questions, I'm sure he'll be happy to answer questions
later
in the break.
Sure, yes, sure.
So, yeah, very, very thought-provoking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we have one question. Sorry.
One question from my side. So we're all saying today that we need to have a national BIM mandate. If I was to ask you, who do you think should be the person to take that initiative? Who do you think could be nominated? Because you're saying it, I'm saying it, Engineer Nasser, and a lot of us in this room all agree national BIM mandate is the way to go. If I was to ask you, who do you think could be the sponsor of this to take it to the next step? Who do you think it would be?
Okay, I can answer this question. We've tried last year in order to sort of collect the recommendations out of this conference and approach, I think Dr. Khalid Mahdi is not here, who was the Secretary of Planning. I think that entity is overseeing the progress of projects here in Kuwait. So with their engagement, with their support, I think we will find the right routes in order to approach the policymakers. I think we have also colleagues here from the ministries who can help us in guiding that direction. But I think there should be a central committee representing the different entities here in Kuwait who are interested in BIM implementation and this adoption of the idea or the necessity of BIM implementation should guide this committee in order to sort which direction is proper in order to seek the government. Okay. You have any insights on this?
I was going to say I'll be more than happy to perhaps have a sit down with you and perhaps put some ideas together. We'll be very keen on helping.
As I stated, we are a group of researchers who are trying our best in order to come up with conclusions based on data, and then the next very important step is to find the correct route of approach. How we can approach this in order to, as I said, to take it to the practical level of implementation.
Absolutely.
We'll have a chat.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Would you like to join us?